Alright, let's get started. So, for this video, let's talk about Sweden's housing bubble. Or rather, is there a housing bubble in Sweden? Because according to price indexes, housing prices in Sweden have tripled over the past 10 years, over the last 15 years. And that just begs the question of whether there's a housing bubble going on there or not. I mean, a tripling of housing prices in Sweden doesn't seem like something that's natural. I mean, the fundamental cost of to construct a home doesn't change that much. So if the price of a home increases by 3, then you'd think it would be caused by speculation. So let's start looking at this. Sweden's home price slump worsens to reach double digits. The plunge in Sweden's housing market deepened last month to the most since the financial crisis, with prices of single-family homes coming under growing pressure as higher energy costs deter buyers. The market that was one of the hottest during the pandemic is now among the bellwethers for the global housing cooldown amid central banks' aggressive interest rate increases seeking to tackle soaring consumer prices. The decline in home cost from the March peak reaches 11% last month, the biggest drop since the global financial crisis when prices retreated 12% in a space of 8 months. Again, as you can see on the graph, prices were triple what they were back in 2005. And I don't see how you can explain this as anything other than speculation, because, I mean, the cost of labor and building materials doesn't just change that much over time. So the fundamental cost to construct a home shouldn't be changing, so I mean, the only other cause for such an increase in prices you could come up with has to be speculation. The Sweden Home Price Index fell for the 6th month, retracting by 2.8% in September. The uncertainty regarding how the mortgage rates will rise at the same time as there are clear signs that the economy is slowing will eventually also impact the labor market, and is clearly having a dampening effect on the sentiment among potential buyers. She added that there is a clear downside risk to the bank's projection that prices decline about 15% in adjusted terms. The Riksbank governor said Thursday that the central bank will do what is necessary to bring inflation back down to its 2% target. And inflation in Sweden is way above 2%. I think inflation in Sweden is it's very high there right now. I'll go into that a little later. I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't any accident somewhere as rates increased. Yeah, we're going to raise rates until something breaks. I've heard that one before. We have to live with that, given that inflation is what it is. The Riksbank last month forecast a peak to trough fall of 18%. The slide is precipitated by inflation, which hit another 3-decade high of 9.7% in September. Despite the Swedish bank's record rate hikes. Above all, the price of detached houses is what is the focus of the correction at the moment. It's of course affected by concerns about operating expenses with the expected high cost of electricity this winter. Prices of detached homes, which gained the most during the pandemic, dropped 3.3% in September, while apartment prices declined 2%. Looking at the data in seasonally adjusted terms, the housing market overall is now faring worse than during the crisis back in '08. Sweden's decline compared with a 12.6% plunge from the peak in New Zealand and a 9% fall in Canada. The Swedish bank says it doesn't expect a housing price crash, projecting home prices slide by another 10%. Yeah, so we'll see about that. It's interesting because home prices in America during this period, I think, have just been steadily increasing, though I'm not certain. Let me double check that for a second. Let's see. Okay, Schiller Index. Fred. Let's see. Edit graph. Let's see. Yeah, now they're both indexed to the same year. Yeah, so home prices in the US have started going down a teeny bit, but it's only like 2%. And I'm sure rates here have increased a lot more than they've increased in Sweden. So again, house prices are based on the yearly mortgage cost, not the sticker price of the house. So higher rates, of course, should have a major impact on house prices. So I mean, even with a tiny decrease in house prices in the US, yearly mortgage costs are still way up over this period because of higher rates, meaning higher monthly payments. Well, in Sweden, the decline in home prices has been like 10%, so it's been a lot worse over there. Let's see. We're only double from where we were in '05, while in Sweden they're triple, so their property prices are a lot more elevated. I don't know, this really looks like a bubble to me, and if you stop inflating them, they instantly burst and crash. So if the tightening of the Swedish bank is taking all the fuel out of the speculation and the energy in the bubble, then it's just going to burst and collapse as falling prices stop additional speculation and lead to reduced demand, which causes a negative feedback or positive feedback loop that just causes prices to rapidly decelerate and precipitously crash. And again, the bank in Sweden's tightening because inflation's really getting out of hand there. I mean, look, this is core inflation, so you can't pin this on Russia, Ukraine, and the rising natural gas prices. This is core inflation, so this is the fundamentals of what's going on in Sweden, and it's like 8%. Even in the United States, it's only 6.3%. I think it's the. Well, no. I think some Eastern European countries are in the OECD now. Whatever. Core inflation in Sweden is like ridiculously high. So the bank in Sweden really has to clamp down now. So what are interest rates in Sweden? Let's see. Sweden interest rates. Yeah, Swedish interest rates are only 2.5%, and it's already caused like a 10% decline in house prices. Well, in the United States, interest rates are already at 4%, and home prices have only decreased a teeny tiny bit. So it's looking like a bubble to me, and it looks like they're going to have a Really bad housing crash. Well, I think that's enough for the video. Hopefully you found something interesting, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens.